This is a Year 7 Spanish Stage 4.1 and Stage 4.2 lesson plan. Simply put, it is a sequence of events, a sequence of content that will facilitate the learning of about 20 vocabulary items, a small amount of grammar, and some functional language too, where students ultimately use the vocabulary in phrases in real world settings. Underneath, however, a lesson plan is said to be like a series of questions. And in the process of making a lesson plan, I think one is checking off some important questions. And my approach to this lesson plan was to answer what strategies can I use to assess learning, what strategies can I use to justify classroom management and organization of the lesson, and what strategies can I use to adapt the lesson to the particular cohort of learners, my differentiation strategies for equal engagement across the class, what strategies have I used to sequence its content. There's different levels of evidence to support from other teachers, so incorporated peer evidence, there's textbooks-based evidence, and there's evidence from observation and practice. There were a variety of strategies available which were embedded into this lesson plan. Firstly, those that adapt the lesson to the needs of the class, for example, through a study of the class's culturally framed reference, notes I keep that profile the class, taking into account previous knowledge of the class, student surveys embedded within one or two activities, and a reflective journal I keep to help understand an ever-evolving needs of a class and also my own understanding of my own teaching. Secondly, those strategies that help sequence the content, ensuring continuity, ensuring a range and variety, and the sequence that meets the diverse needs of a class. For example, the initial presentation of a rewards chart and an anchor chart, my initial diagnostic exercises, the placement, for example, of when are students presented with something, when are students experimenting with something, when are students reinforcing and consolidating, in what sequence. Thirdly, strategies for assessing learning matter. For example, whether they're formal or informal, it's a diagnostic or a summative or formative assessment. Those strategies for effective feedback will also be pointed out. Lastly, we will see strategies in the lesson plan that support the management and organization of the lesson. For example, which activities are teacher-centered or learner-centered, how is the teacher monitoring, what informs those decisions, and that also includes anticipating problems during the lesson. Before going on, I did want to point out some incorporated peer feedback. For example, this point about diagnostic assessment, which drove me to re-examine the diagnostic I have in my lesson plan. It's only brief, and at the commencement of my lesson, it's informal, which is supported by our Churchill et al. In our textbook readings. Though it's informal, teacher-centered and brief, I will be able to determine the retention of the previous week's content, days of the week and time. From there, I will be able to assess previous knowledge of the target language of the lesson, who's good performers. I can basically map the specific needs of the class, and it will also determine my own actions from that point in as to how much time I spend during tasks, which items I should be reinforcing more than others. Other feedback pointed to a lack of differentiation noted in my lesson plan. So I did take the opportunity to extend the notes and to deepen my understanding of differentiation in the secondary school context and of its importance. Well, not only as its inclusion in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but also an expectation of Australian professional standards for teaching. Can be defined as a specialization of extensively adapted materials to suit the needs of individuals and groups. Whether that is my flexibility in grouping students. For example, Saler, I have to think about how he will participate in kinesthetic tasks. He travels 1 hour to get to class every day. I need to think of Saif, who has a physical impediment. He can't write, so I need to adapt writing tasks to touch screen tasks. I need to reinforce Jerry's attendance behavior, for example, through rewards systems or some sort of conditioning perhaps. A further comment was that it is limited in ICT, so I will point out my variety and range in ICT in this lesson. Well, in summary, my guiding principle here is to teach up during the class and planning. So basically organize, understand all of these needs and then teach up from there. Other feedback suggested I incorporate real-world tasks into the lesson. I did go ahead and create a homework task in which students have to create a menu using the food items they will have learnt. Finally, feedback queried my timing metrics here, my broad 5 to 10 minutes for these development stages of the lesson. This just gave me, on re-evaluation, it does give me flexibility. I'm aware that these are the longer stages of the lesson. They may end up being shorter, and that may be based on my previous diagnostic. It might be based on how well the task plays out, and it's based on experience with these tasks that I need to be flexible with timing, and it's supported in the literature. The situational analysis of the class, as I look at my class notes, is that we have 20 learners and a range of abilities, a range of cultural reference points, range of preferences, styles, intelligences, if you like, a range of needs. For example, one student has a permanent hand injury, which means he cannot write. Another student, lives in a remote town and travels 1 hour to get to school each day. Other students have artistic needs, or otherwise they're just disengaged. Another student has out of class activities that affect the attendance in class and participation. And for example, other students have linguistic needs. For example, multilingualism is very strong, but the emphasis on English means that the advantages implied in speaking other languages and understanding the grammars of those languages is often overlooked. So that could be a resource to draw on. In fact, other students have previous knowledge of Spanish. It's inherent in some of their languages, for example, the Filipino. And there are considerations for our super fast finishes and what I should do with these students as they become bored and tasks end quickly for them. So one of the pedagogical frameworks the school adheres to is use of ICT in the classroom. So it supports a strong use of a variety of ICT. For example, here, if not only good consolidation and of language, this Kahoot can meet the needs of musical students or artistic students who as they answer correctly in Kahoot, they can paint in the squares. Here, also this one is a reinforcer of mindset. So this is it's not Spanish, but students, as needs dictate, can be allocated this task to reinforce growth mindsets over fixed mindsets. Useful for Jason or other students who are withdrawn.
No me gusta el café.
So the other advantage of this technology is that I can download the performance data of each individual student to help me understand students' needs even more accurately. And what's best is that, for example, in Saif's case, he can't write, so this activity is perfect for him. So in terms of sequence, the syllabus outcomes on the left align with the activities on the right. So in making the plan, those syllabus learning outcomes get plugged in first on the left, and then the activities designed around those back designed. So they are there with the stage aims as well, as you can see. And the order of content from here is structured in a way that, it's a language class, so it is a scaffolding language. It is trying to build towards a point. It is very student-centered. It is communicative. It is built on the cognitive theories and constructivist theories that have been in use in language teaching for over 50 years. It is about building up to a point where students can practice under controlled conditions, less controlled conditions, free conditions, with the teacher monitoring, closely or remotely, discreetly. And it is trying to get students as soon as possible into their proximal zone of development, where students are taking over the learning, where they are understanding how they are learning, where the majority of the class is then practicing the target language with me out of the way. Well, this is all well and good, but how will I get learners into that zone and motivate them and get them engaged early? The rewards chart incentivizes engagement. As you can see, fixed rewards for students who, when all students participate in activities, the class receives a star, and then receiving all of the stars gives them some free time every 2 weeks. And students have different colors for each student, so they're also as an incentive to get your color up on that chart. The diagnostic also engages students somewhat in that the previous schema of knowledge is reactivated. The other motivator is the anchor chart, which shows students their final result. So their study efforts will go towards making a full sentence by the end of the second class.